Good morning, everybody. It is January 31st. We are a little bit more than a 12th of the way through the year. This month has flown by, and it has been a very dramatic month. Um, you know, a lot of death, business things we didn't anticipate, interpersonal things that we didn't anticipate, just a lot of drama that January will be taking with it, and I hope leaving with it. I'm hoping February is a much calmer month. Um, but, overall, it's all good stuff. I mean, it's the way I try to look at any of these moments is like, what is it teaching me? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from it? It gives it a little more sense of a purpose, and helps in dealing with anything. It's the for you versus done to you mentality. Appreciating that all of this stuff happens to everybody, and that how we experience it determines how we think about it. Just doing what we got to do, and I'm sure all of you are also. It's life is tough. I mean, there's I appreciate what all you guys are going through, and I've read some posts in the user group that I know we're gonna be talking more in depth about. One of them is about we're gonna go into this on Sunday in the long one. It's about people foisting their own priorities onto you, and how we handle that. How we set proper boundaries. How do we make sure that we are still keeping ourselves in a healthy place. So that topic got some discussion in this group this week. So I'm going to make sure we hit that. So be there for that. I'm going to try to schedule that. I'll update you as soon as I know for sure. But I'm going to try to schedule that for probably 11 or 12 o'clock on Sunday morning. That's Eastern time in the group. The other thing that's been going on is that the podcast episode, the new live one, came out last night. And it was kind of a difficult topic because it's a sensitive topic, and it's a topic that sometimes people get pretty polarized about. But it's the concept of, how to handle situations where, maybe like somebody's done something bad. Like Kobe Bryant is how this all came up. Is when Kobe Bryant, there was a rape case against him. I believe it was in '03. And a lot of people are bringing that up now that he's being so celebrated in the wake of his death. And so we go in the podcast, we go into talking about, bringing it back to us. How do we handle this perception, like when we've done something bad or hurt other people? How do we handle growth after that? And the story we tell ourselves, and do we allow ourselves to be boxed in by what other people think and how other people define us? And how do we grow beyond that to become more than we were in that moment or during that period of time? I think it's a pretty important topic because I think a lot of people get boxed in by who they have been rather than who they want to be or maybe even should be. So I feel like that's a topic that really... it's difficult to talk about, especially in cases like his, but it's incredibly important because we box ourselves in, and it stops us from becoming who we want. There's a good quote that came up from Aubrey Marcus today on my Instagram, actually, and he wrote, "Unhappiness is predicated on the idea of what should be based on your personal history," right? It's the resistance to what is. Ask yourself this: if you were beamed into your body without any memory, so all you knew was the present moment, would you be unhappy right now? I think that's pretty important. I think, if you imagine yourself being beamed into your current situation with no idea of any history, what happened a moment before or years before, how would you act? How would you want to act? Now, things come back. Previous relationships are there waiting for us. And people we care about that know us a certain way. Like we have to navigate all of that. But how would you choose to navigate it if you just woke up today with no memory and a fresh start? And I think we need to approach life that way. We need to sort of allow ourselves to forget the old stuff and get moving. So that's what the podcast was about last night. You can find it the replay is either available on my Nick Boris Facebook page, on the major podcast apps, and on YouTube right now in the podcast playlist. So you can check that out there. And the more I watched a podcast interview on YouTube from Lewis Howes. He has a School of Greatness podcast, and he interviewed Kobe a couple of years ago, and he replayed it on his podcast this week. I didn't realize how disciplined Kobe Bryant was, and his mentality. They call it the Mamba mentality, right? So, the guy got up at 4 o'clock every morning, and towards the end there was getting up at 4 o'clock every morning with his daughter, and they were working out. And he told stories in this interview about how, his teammates, he's always trying to get the most out of his teammates and getting them to be their best selves. And, when they had back-to-back games, he'd tell them, no partying, we're not going out. And they'd say, no, we want to go out. We're going to go out. He says, okay, fine. Then if we're going to go out, I'm going to go out with you. We're going to have fun. But tomorrow morning, you're going to go out with me. Working out, right? So he said, they'd go out, they'd have a good time. And then that next morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, he'd be banging on their door, let's go. And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, man, I went out with you, now you're coming out with me. And they'd go to the gym. And, it was just his, there was another story they told about how, another player went to the court and was practicing, and Kobe was there. And, he said to himself, I'm going to hang out for as long as Kobe hangs out. And he said, we went on for hours, and Kobe would not leave the court. And at the end, he went up and was talking to him. He says, and Kobe told him, he says, I didn't leave because I knew you were watching. And that was his mentality. He was going to out-practice, outplay everybody. And that's how he got to be one of the best in the game ever. And that's how he approached life. He just every day was disciplined and just doing the best he could every day. Now, I know for a lot of people that seems overwhelming. It seems like a huge, overwhelming task from where you are right now. And even to me, it seems huge. But it's that change that happens over time. When you start building in disciplines and building in that priority focus, that priority habit, and your life changes and you don't even realize it. I talked about last week how, I had a week last week where I just sort of let focus go and let things come to me. And that's how the podcast came, right? That's because I was like, this has been sitting in the background for too long. I'm inspired to do this. And so I went with it. I kind of went where the energy was taking me. But I was also incredibly tired after weeks of just a lot of work. And so on Sunday, I said to myself, I'm going to let you do, you're going to do whatever you want. You can nap, you can watch Netflix all day, you can do whatever you want. And what ended up happening, because that's so far from where I am right now, I felt awful about myself by the end of the day. I am not somebody that can watch Netflix all day and feel good about myself. And I'll tell you, as recently as maybe a few years ago, I was doing that regularly. So I am a different person now than I was a couple of years ago and didn't even realize it, just in that small little area and all of the other small areas. So I'm building up more evidence for myself that I can't even identify until I put myself back into different situations and I realize, it's just not me anymore. So, while wherever you're at right now, whether you're running a business, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, whether you're taking care of an elder, whether you're an employee, a boss, manager, whatever, wherever you are not static where you are. And what you're used to now, you can change. And that's the point of this whole process, is that you can grow and change and become whoever you want. Good morning, Sharon. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Um, we have a couple of other things I want to talk about. There was a woman that posted on here about being burned out, having a rough couple of years. And that is something I'm going to address in the podcast episode coming up next week. Burnout's big. We talked about January 19th being National Quitters Day. People overdo it, get burned out, and then they snap right back to where they were, right? But there's different kinds of burnout. You can, be trying to avoid certain situations. So you throw yourself into work, or you avoid work. I've been in all those situations. And so, we're going to talk more about, how to handle different parts of burnout in a future podcast next week. But I think the main advice that I would give anybody experiencing burnout, like the small, quick advice, would be explore yourself a little bit more. Don't rest, don't check out, don't get into an avoidance mode. I would actually be more inquisitive. Read more. Read more about an area of your life that you feel you need to learn more about, who you want to improve. For me, one of the things I was worried about was caring too much about what other people thought. So I read twice in, I think, 2017, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. Right? I read that twice. Once in the beginning of the year, once in the end of the year after I implemented some things. I focused more on educating myself and growing personally, and that helped me get out of the whole burnout thing. But even now, if I'm feeling overwhelmed now, my thing to do is not go watch Netflix. My thing to do is sit down and read. And when I do that, I find my mindset and perspective changes. So, whether it's an educational book, whether it's, a good blog online, watching YouTube videos, or, even reading the Bible, if that's your go-to, I think that, doing something good for yourself when you're in a bad place, make sure it's good for you and not just like something that's a distraction to you, that's just pushing down the road the things that you need to address. And then the final thing I wanted to bring up today, and this was the main topic for today, is this concept of always moving forward. One person in relation to exercising put it to me this way, and I thought was very good, is that life is like walking up a down escalator, in that it's always pushing you back to the beginning. It's always pushing you to the bottom. And if you don't keep taking steps, if you stop, all your progress is gone and erased, and you just go straight back to the bottom, to where you started. And so the point is not to sprint up the escalator. The point is just keep walking at a pace that's faster than pushing you down, and not stopping. And, we can take that from a personal development perspective. We can take it from how we progress at work, relationships, even to the smallest things, around the house. When you look at, responsibilities around the house, if, you're doing a little bit every day and keeping it at a certain point, or making small improvements every day, it doesn't get overwhelming, But when you we'll just take laundry as an example. When you let it pile up into 6 baskets, well, now it's a project, whereas if you're just doing it in between moments, it's never a big deal, and you always have laundry, always have clean laundry. But if it piles up into 6 big baskets, then, now it's work, and I look at that my thing is the dishes, right? So when the dishes pile up and become overwhelming, you don't even want to touch it. You don't want to, now it's a thing, right? Where if you just do them in between the moments, it's never a thing. And, when you let things build up, whether it's taking a course, letting the work build up, whether it's a project at work and letting everything just kind of pile up on your desk. If we're not chipping away at things consistently, we kind of develop this like start and stop constantly. And it's, we have these moments where we're not doing anything and we're sort of just wasting time. And then we have moments where we're overwhelmed and anxious and, just don't have enough time to get the things done. And then we go back to the slow burn of anxiety when we're not doing anything or not approaching anything we need to. So, and it's just not healthy. It's not healthy. So we need to consistently just keep moving forward and keep doing the positive things for ourselves that we know we need to do. And it's everything. It's everything. It's the stupid responsibilities like the stuff around the house. It's the more important things like the things we need to do at work. And it's also the things for ourselves that we need to do. It's the daily meditations. It's the disciplines we talk about. Exercise. Like, we can't let all of the negative pile up. We can't let it keep pushing us back down to the bottom. We have to keep every day moving forward just a little bit. There's a small steps and big results concept, right? We just need to take small steps every day. And when we don't allow it to pile up, we don't get anxious, we don't get overwhelmed, and we don't feel like there's just too much going on around us. All right, that's it for today. Today was kind of a long one, so I apologize. But I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope this Friday closes out the week for you strong. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I will be back tomorrow morning for a quick one, and then we'll be back Super Bowl Sunday for a long one. I'll see you. I'll schedule it for you in the group here so that you guys can see it sometime tomorrow when I know for sure what my schedule is going to look like. But I hope everybody has a great day. Last day of the week. Let's enjoy it. Talk to you soon. Bye.